Do you need to take extra prerequisite courses to get into CRNA school? And if you do take those extra courses, does it matter where you take them? This is a question that we get all the time, and it's a really nuanced discussion. And the answer is it depends. But we're going to flush out all of the different scenarios that might apply to you in this episode today. Before we dive into it, my name is Anna. I am a first-year SRNA, a former trauma nurse, and I'm here today with Chrissy.
And my name's Chrissy. I am a current CRNA. I've been practicing for about 5.5 years. And before that, I was a CV ICU nurse. So working with different students, we've definitely seen lots of different scenarios over the years, especially. So we're excited to get into this hot button issue. It's very confusing for people to navigate. So we're hoping to take the mystery out of it for you.
As we approach the question about whether or not you need to take extra or to retake courses as you are preparing your CRNA school application, I think there are a couple of different applicant profiles that we're going to consider. And the first applicant profile is someone who is still in nursing school and someone who wants to become a CRNA. And then we're going to approach that person and how they can plan to get into CRNA school and kind of the most smooth and streamlined timeline and a couple considerations that they may need to make. When it comes to deciding whether or not you need to take extra prerequisite courses to make yourself a competitive applicant for CRNA school, it really boils down to choosing your top 3 of 7 programs before you can even begin to answer the question of what courses you may need to take. Because programs are going to be different throughout the country. Some are going to require prerequisite courses that other programs are not going to require. Some are going to have expiration dates on certain prerequisites. And you really can't even begin to prepare yourself as an applicant before you choose which programs you are targeting for your CRNA schools. I talk about this in one of the YouTube videos on my channel. It's the Anna SRNA channel, and it's talking about choosing your CRNA schools. I give you kind of a point-by-point breakdown on how to use the COA CRNA school tool, where you can compare and contrast different programs with each other. But I think that that's a tool that is really underutilized. It's the COA CRNA school comparison tool. You can go onto that website and you can compare all of the programs that you're interested in. It's going to tell you the number of people who apply. It's going to tell you the average case numbers. It's going to tell you what prerequisites the school is going to require. And then from there, you can really start to formulate and build a plan about how to make yourself stand out as an applicant and how to best move forward. The thing is that you can't broadly apply to every single CRNA school and get in. You really need to have a targeted plan before you approach whether you're going to retake prerequisite courses, take extra courses to make yourself stand out, or take graduate level courses. So I think the very first thing here is to circle back to taking your time to choose which schools you're interested in pursuing and then taking it from there. After you've chosen your top 3 to 7 schools, the next thing is to make sure that you are hitting your basics and covering your basics. And this is kind of going to vary a little bit depending on what your nursing school is, but an important consideration is to make sure that you are taking general science prerequisites. Some nursing programs have foundations of chemistry or an intro to biology that's accepted for the nursing curriculum. That is not going to be accepted broadly by most CRNA school programs. They want to see that you've taken general chemistry, general biology, and general statistics. That is kind of across the board. Most programs want to see that you have prerequisites from the STEM side of a school that are not from nursing. So if you're still currently a nursing student and you know that CRNA is something you're interested in pursuing, it would be advantageous for you to choose your top 3 to 5 programs while you're still in nursing school, and then to make sure that you are taking general biology 1 and 2, general chemistry, and a statistics course. And then from there, with your specific courses, you can choose and you can see if the schools that you are targeting have expiration dates on those prerequisites. And if that's the case, you might be even setting yourself up for success by choosing to take your statistics your senior year so that by the time you apply, you don't have to retake it. This is all just an FYI kind of as the basis, but you need to just make sure that you are picking your schools and then you're making a plan as early as possible on how you're going to best prepare yourself to stand out and then also to not have to retake a bunch of courses.
Yeah, I would like to add also, one thing that I feel keeps coming up when people are asking us in the DMs or on different TikTok lives and things that we do, everyone's like, do I need to take this course or that course? Do I need organic chemistry? Do I need physics? And the answer is also maybe. It depends. Like, without looking at your specific schools ahead of time, you're not going to know. Some schools do want you to have organic chemistry ahead of time or biochemistry ahead of time, because chemistry is the foundation for anesthesia. That's another question we get, right?
Yeah.
Why do I need organic chemistry? Why do I need the classic general chemistry course, 2 semesters of it? Because chemistry is the foundation of pharmacology, of pathophysiology. Like, when we go down to the cellular level, the microscopic level of like every single thing that's happening, getting into physics. Why would we need physics? There is so much physics in anesthesia. It's really important for you to have that basic foundational knowledge so you understand what we're talking about. We're not just memorizing the big zoomed out picture of the Krebs cycle anymore. We're talking about like how like benzene rings work, all these different things. But when we're talking about how different drugs work, we're going all the way down to organic structures and how when they bind to different things in the body, how that matters, how these things intersect with each other, and how you choose your anesthetic. So if you don't have this basic foundation, you don't have to have all of organic chemistry memorized. You don't have to be a wizard, but you need to have a rough idea of what we're talking about when we say the word benzene ring. So, some schools have a chemistry course, like an organic chemistry course or a science and anesthesia course or a chemistry and physics course within the curriculum. So they just require you have that Gen Chem foundation. Other schools want you to brush up on it right before you come in. They want you to have the extra. So planning ahead, what's that phrase? If you fail to plan, you can plan to fail.
Yep.
By planning ahead and really researching schools and not just looking at the schools in your area, unless you have a reason to be in your geographic region, but really doing a deep dive into all the different options of the CRNA programs that are out there. Use the tool. We're going to link it below in the description, the COA CRNA comparison tool, and then go to each program's website and deep dive into what they're looking for. I find that students are constantly looking for blanket cookie cutter answers, and that's just not there. When you're planning to become a graduate student, you're an adult learner. No one's going to handhold your way through this process. You need to be ready to dive deep and do research and figure out stuff on your own. Like, that level of knowledge, thirst, and search is necessary to succeed as a grad student. And it starts here with you planning something as simple as your prerequisite courses.
I'd also like to add that it really shows the faculty and the directors of a program if you've been thorough with your research and you know about the program. If you've taken the time to figure out why you want to be at that particular school, and you know things about the attrition, about the case volumes that their students get, about the number of blocks, that opportunities that they get, the number of parts or heads cases, all of that stuff is going to really show the faculty that you're invested not only in the career, but in that specific program. So it really circles back with this whole, what prerequisites do you need to get into CRNA school? Circles back to being thorough, having that thirst for knowledge, and then pick your programs first, and then we'll answer the kind of more nuanced questions. And I think Chrissy's going to dive into the little bit non-traditional applicant or someone who has maybe a little bit of a less competitive GPA and how to kind of approach and navigate that whole topic as well.
Yeah. So let's jump right into that, actually. So, okay, we talked about scenario 1, right? Which is the typical student who is just saying, hey, do I need extra courses? Do I need organic chemistry? Or, my nursing school had a nursing chemistry. Do I need to take general chemistry, right? This is where we started with applicant A. Applicant B is someone who has a less than competitive GPA and might need to take courses to boost their GPA or to show schools that they're serious. So what is a competitive GPA? Everybody take a deep breath, because as soon as we give you a number, everyone's going to panic. Just take the easy breath right out, right? In and out. Most schools say a competitive GPA is 3.5 or higher. Does that mean you can't get in with a GPA of less than 3.5? No, it happens. People absolutely do it and make it work. But you have to pad your application in other ways, and you have to show schools that you're ready to take on the academic challenge. So why do schools care so much about GPA? Let's back that up real quick. GPA is the only statistic that has been shown to correlate with first-time boards pass rates. What do schools care about? their students passing the boards on the first time. It's one of the most important metrics for them when, according to the COA, the Council on Accreditation looks at how well schools are preparing their students. If their students are coming out and not passing their boards, there's going to be an issue. So schools need their students to pass the boards. It has been shown over time, there's been studies on this, that people with high GPAs are more likely to pass their boards on the first time. So we all understand that there's people who, you know, in undergrad, maybe you were partying, you didn't know what you wanted to do with your life, you weren't taking school very seriously, and then you turn it around. There's people who go through a traumatic event, a death, a sick family member, your own personal illness. There are people who were working 2 jobs because you have to, you know, nobody's giving you money or helping you out. You didn't have a scholarship. Like, they're in sports, they're a Division I athlete. They're pulled in a lot of different directions. The problem is that it's going to sound insensitive the way I'm about to say it. I don't want to use the word I'm about to use. How about this? Explanations. When you have all of these different factors might come up in grad school again also. Financial struggles, sick family members, you know, divorces, all of it.
Currently going through a divorce, and grad school keeps going.
Grad school keeps going.
And this is from personal experience. I recently have had a situation where I'm now moving out, parting ways with my ex, but school is continuing on, and I was not able to get an extension on an exam. This is an example that hard life stuff happens in nursing school and hard life stuff happens in CRNA school. And the harsh reality is that you have to maintain an 82 or an 83 average in the program to continue on. And it's difficult, but this is one of the criteria that program directors are looking at to see, you know, maybe you did experience difficult times in undergrad, but were you able to pull through that? Because you're going to have to be able to pull through in CRNA school as well, is kind of what it boils down to.
And same thing with, like, you know, when you show up to clinical sites, a lot of clinical sites use you as staff. It doesn't matter if a family member's dying. In our program, we got 2 bereavement days. Oof. I had 2 classmates lose parents, and they got 2 bereavement days. Didn't matter that they were sick in the ICU. They had to choose to go to clinical or to see their dying parent.
Wow.
So this is the reality of grad school. That's why, you know, I'm sorry that I'm scaring you guys. Everybody take a deep breath, right? So if, you know, you are the person who, you've had a lot going on, your grades suffered, we have to find a way to get you to prove to school that even though you weren't ready then as a 19-year-old, you're ready now. So how are we going to prove that? We're going to do that by either A, retaking old courses. Specifically, science courses that you got below a B in is like my number one, like, blanket rule for people. And when I'm talking about science courses, I'm not talking about MedSurg 1 or your nursing, your OB nursing course. I mean, if you had a C in chemistry, a C in biology, a C in microbiology, go back and retake those courses, get an A. Get an A while you're working full-time as a nurse. Show them, hey, like, back then when I was 19, I wasn't able to juggle all the balls. But today I'm 25 and I'm working full time and I have all these responsibilities and I still got an A. I can do it now. That's what you want to prove to them.
And it is okay to not be the person you were when you were 18. And I think that
We like the growth arc.
if what they're looking for is, first of all, a strong history of academic performance, but then if there was an era where you were 18 and 19 and you maybe weren't taking college that seriously because you were 18 years old, you got some C's in English. Okay, well, what was your grade trend like after that?
Right.
What did you do after to prove that you are an academic hard worker, that you are improving yourself? And then, like Chrissy said, this is the situation where you go back and you retake any class that you got less than a B.
Any science class.
Any science class.
Don't bother with an English class or a nursing class. Science classes.
That's an important clarification because people who are applying to CRNA school are type A anxious people. Most of the time, I was
All of us.
And so I started off with an arts degree. I was in a BFA program. I was a dance major. They did not award A's in ballet because an A is perfection, which, you know, that's arguable, neither here nor there. The CRNA school doesn't care if I got a B or a C in ballet technique and modern dance too. That's not really relevant to my application package in my STEM courses. But if I got a B or a C or if I got a C in any of the STEM classes, that's where I would have retaken a course.
Exactly. Yeah. So program directors are not just going to look at you like a bullet point list. They're going to look at the whole transcript and the entire story arc, and they're going to see your entire package, right? They're also looking at your nursing experience. They're also looking at how long ago that was. Let's say you're applying to CRNA school at the age of 38, and when you were 19, you had C's in chemistry, and then you retook them, and now you have A's. Like, that's going to look really different than someone who had like B's and C's and like struggled throughout school and then has 1 to 2 years of ICU experience. Like, have you really changed that much? It really wasn't that long ago, right? These are very different story arcs. Also, you get the chance to potentially explain that in your interview. And I think a character redemption arc is something that everybody wants to root for. But again, program directors have to feel comfortable on betting on you. So prerequisites, retaking courses or adding new courses is a great way to do this. One, I want to say mistake I see a lot is a lot of students, instead of retaking these courses that they did poorly in, they're adding on courses at the graduate level to boost their GPA that are kind of easy for them. So a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, oh, well, I took the master's level pharmacology. Well, that's nice, but we still need to know if you can handle chemistry, right? So, I think that by adding on graduate level like APRN courses, meaning advanced practice nursing courses, people think that they're making their resume and application package look better. And that can be a tool that you use. Like, let's say you just like had a low-ish GPA and then you wanted to like kind of just fluff up and brush up and show that you still got it. You're still fresh. Maybe you've been out of school for a long time. I think that's actually a great choice. But if you're the person who had C's and D's in chemistry and biology, what you need to be doing is either retaking that exact course again and get an A, in person, not in an online college. If it's a lab-based science, you need to be in person in the lab. Community college is fine. Or B, what you need to do is take a graduate level STEM course, like graduate level biochemistry, organic chemistry, those types of things to show that you are in fact ready to take on the challenge. And this is how we're going to, again, set you apart and show you're really serious. And then that's actually a nice flow because it piggyback off of like, well, when is it okay to take an online course?
So if you find yourself in the scenario where you do want to retake courses or to take extra courses to boost your GPA, when is it okay to take them online and where should you be taking these courses? This is it is not a blanket one-size-fits-all answer. There's some nuance in this topic as well. So the first thing we'll say is if you have a C or lower in any STEM course, retake it in person at a brick and mortar institution. That institution can be a community college, that's fine, but retake any STEM class in person and try to get an A. If you are someone who had very solid grades, but you've been out of school for a long time and you're trying to demonstrate to faculty that yes, you may be 37, but you had good grades the first time and you're still a solid student, that's where I would say it would be fine to take online courses and the advanced practice master's courses because
Totally.
were, again, a solid student before, you're still a solid student, you still have it, you got it going on. And this is just demonstrating that even though it's been a while since you've been in school, you still have what it takes to make good grades. If you also have courses that expire, because some programs require you to have a chemistry course and a statistics course within 5 years of matriculating or starting the program, that's another scenario where I think it's fine to take the class online. Because again, you had solid grades the first time and you're just showing once again that you can still perform.
I will say this, if it's something like chemistry, again, since it's lab-based, you would have to check with your school for that because I think for a while, schools were accepting online courses because with COVID, so much went online for things like chemistry. But I would argue that most program directors for a course like chemistry, they want you to have the in-person lab. But I agree for statistics. I agree if you're just taking like pathophysiology, like those types of things. Another thing to add to that is a lot of people are wondering, like, do I need to take these courses at the school I'm hoping to matriculate into at my top choice school? I would argue no. Like, if I was the program director of UPenn or Columbia or Emory or any of these places, and I saw that you took, pathophysiology at, here, like, okay, that's nice. You might be able to transfer the credit in, but a lot of the time schools don't really let you take those courses ahead and do that. Some programs do. UPenn lets you take a couple. I think Villanova does too. But I don't think you need to go out of your way and bend over backwards to do that necessarily.
I don't think you need to pay triple the tuition cost of a community college, but I think it could be, in some circumstances, a nice way to show, no, this is my top program, and this is me committing to my top program.
That's a good point.
I love what you do for your students. I'm taking my advanced graduate level courses here, and I'm invested and I am sold on everything that you have. So I think in your interview, that could be a way that you are showing extra commitment, but I don't think it's necessary. And I also don't think it's necessary to spend tuition that's like triple the cost to have that one differentiating factor, especially because your application package as a whole is just, you are more than the sum of your parts, right? And you can really sell that in the interview. One other thing I kind of wanted to add is it circles back to choosing your programs. Some programs look at your last 60 credit hours, and that is the GPA that they look at and consider for your CRNA school application. This would be great. I think Cal State Fullerton is one of those programs. That would be great for the student who maybe had a little too much fun freshman and sophomore year, and then got serious in nursing school and had straight A's. This is the sort of thing where it really is going to circle back to choosing your programs that are going to be in your best interest and fit your strengths as well.
Definitely. I love that point. Science GPA. Some schools primarily look at science GPA, and most schools will actually look at both. So they'll look at the GPA, which is like the cumulative average of your science courses, right? Your chemistry, your biology, your OChem. And then they'll also look at your overall global GPA. So that's why, again, we're emphasizing taking the science courses. This is going to be looked at a lot more closely and be a lot more valuable to schools and a lot more important to them for the most part. Some schools might even only look at the science GPA. So these are all different things.
This is often a surprise to applicants when they see on the application page itself that there are 2 slots, one for science GPA and one for cumulative. A lot of nurses are not happy to see necessarily that that the science GPA is so heavily weighted, especially if you had a lot of fluff classes and you did really well in your nursing courses. But this is, again, circling back to a predictive measure of how you're going to do in the very difficult STEM courses in CRNA school. So it's just something to keep in mind, because you may have a pretty high cumulative GPA, but they're also going to be looking often equally at science versus cumulative.
Definitely. There's other ways. I feel like we're going to scare you guys with this podcast so much. I'm so sorry. I'm really not trying to scare you guys. I just want you all to be set up for success so that you know what the rationale is. And then when you understand the logic, that's how you're going to make your decisions, right? So, there's going to be other ways to set yourself apart as well if you are a person who had a low GPA. So in addition to retaking courses or adding on extra new courses, taking them at the graduate level, you can also do other things like take the GRE, even if your school didn't require it, and knock it out of the park. Why do tests like the GRE exist? It's a scholastic aptitude test. Now, it's a whole nother conversation of whether it's an accurate measure. There's lots of different debate over its utility and whether we should be using it at all. And now only about half of schools are using it anyway. However, it shows that you are a high score. I should say this, a high score on the GRE shows that you are capable of taking on challenging material. So it's one more tool in your toolbox to prove that you are ready to be a good student, right?
100%.
So you take a couple extra courses, you knock the GRE out of the park, you get some really kick-butt ICU experience, you take on some leadership roles, you get involved in research, and then you attend a conference or two. And it shows you are so stinking serious. And that is going to really help you stand out to a program director, You might even be someone that, I mean, personally, if I was to choose a student, I would choose that person over the cookie cutter 4.0 GPA person who's been in the ICU for a year and is just kind of, not that we don't love you guys too. And that was kind of who I was, honestly. So, hello, hypocrite. But 3.9. It's just, showing someone who has like a really well-rounded application, they're going to have a lot of strengths in the clinical space, and they're going to be a really great addition to a cohort. So please don't feel like we're telling you guys you can't overcome this hurdle. We're encouraging you to dive deep, research the programs, and then strategically choose the courses that are going to help you.
2 things I want to add. One is that you are more than the sum of your parts. And then the second is that your worth as a nurse and as a future nurse anesthetist is not directly tied to your undergrad GPA. And it's not a defining thing that you're not able to overcome. I think that it is important to be candid and honest with people who are looking to get into the field. I don't think we do people any favors by not providing people the information, because when you provide people information, then you can figure out what steps you need to do to move forward. And this is all just about sharing and disclosing information publicly, online, in a free format so that people have access to tools that will help set them up for success. So if you do find yourself, maybe you're at the end of this podcast and you're listening and you find that, okay, I do fall within the quote unquote competitive category. That's great. You don't need to necessarily keep yourself up at night giving yourself a stomach ulcer, taking extra courses, because you're already fine. And people who are applying to grad school are an anxious bunch. You did it. Focus on learning every single thing that you can in the ICU and being a really great nurse. Maybe you had a rough start to your undergrad and you're finding out that you maybe need to retake some courses. That is okay. You are not defined by your failure as an 18-year-old because you struggled in your first biology class. That is okay. You're going to brush that off and you're going to do what you need to do to move forward. This is all just about presenting information so that you have the tools that you need to set yourself up for success in the future. And that's why we're here. We really believe in you guys. And we know that you're going to be great nurse anesthetists one day.
Oh, I love that. When I was applying to schools, the only information on the internet, this is the pre-influencer era. There were no social media medical people at the time.
Chrissy was in utero as a social media medical person. She wasn't out yet.
They did not exist. Certainly not nurse anesthetists.
Right.
But really no one. And we only had one forum online.
Allnurses.com. Oh, I was in there.
All-nurses. And there's one CRNA who would answer everyone's questions. I don't know who this man is, but God bless him, because I clung to his words. That's my only. I didn't have any family members in healthcare. Like, I have an aunt who's a mother baby nurse. Like, not the same world, right? Like, I didn't have any doctors, PAs, CRNAs. I didn't have anyone to ask. You couldn't go to people on the unit because it's a taboo thing to talk about. Like,
how dare you want to go to CRNA school?
You can't ask anyone, like, how do you get access to a CRNA? You just can't. There's no one to go to. So, again, by equipping you guys with the tools and resources, we're hoping you can, instead of being afraid from this podcast episode, feel empowered to make good decisions. And guys, it's hard to take these courses while you're a nurse. And I know, because I actually retook general chemistry when I was a nurse. I got good grades the first time, but I was afraid of it expiring because one of the programs in the Philadelphia area had like a really long wait list to get in. So I was retaking general chemistry while working, rotating nights and days as a nurse.
Oof, that's hard.
And then taking Gen Chem in person. And then the chemistry course I took was at UPenn also. Oh my God. It was just, I couldn't make the resource sessions. I can't think of the word for it.
Study sessions.
The extra resource sessions and all these different things. And I kept having to leave early because I have to go into a shift. I mean, it was exhausting, but I got an A the first time in undergrad. I got a B my second time this time around. It is just harder when you're working. But, if you prioritize it, it's doable. Hopefully you don't rotate night day 50-50. That takes the edge off for sure. And I think, again, it is going to help you prove to program directors that you are ready to take this on. So we know it's hard, but we also know that you can do it.
It's hard work, and it really kind of comes down to setting time aside and making it happen. You also don't need a 4.0 to get into CRNA.
You don't need a 4.0.
I think I had a cumulative 3.7, and I got 4 out of 5 interviews in 2021. So there's so many of you who...
Meaning she got accepted to 4 out of the 5 places she interviewed at, right?
Meaning I applied to 5, I didn't get 1 interview.
Okay, and you got interviews.
So I got interviews at 4 places. So I think often these are the same anxious group of people who are stressed out they don't have a 4.0. You don't have to have a 4.0. You need to be a solid ICU nurse and have some good academic track records. But again, you don't have to have a 4.0 and work at Mayo Clinic to get into CRNA school.
Definitely not.
But take all this information, tuck it in your back pocket, and then make the steps that you need to make to prepare yourself for the next step of the journey. And also try to enjoy it along the way. I know this is coming from someone who is a hypocrite, because I, every single day, was just waiting for the next step. While I was in nursing school, I couldn't wait to be an ICU nurse, and I was worried I wouldn't get an ICU nursing job. When I was an ICU nurse, I was worried I wouldn't get a letter of recommendation. When I was applying to CRNA school, I was worried I wouldn't get in. When I got into CRNA school, I'm now stressed out about my anatomy course. Like, every step of the way, it's difficult to enjoy where you're at, but if possible, try to enjoy the journey, because you'll blink and you'll be 12 years later and you'll be 32 in a CRNA, and you'll regret not trying to enjoy the steps where you're at.
It's such good advice. So wrapping this up, I think the most important take-home point for you guys is there's never a cookie-cutter answer to any of these questions. We're so sorry. But the thing is, you're going to save yourself time, money, stress, and confusion by finding your schools first. Again, check out Anna's YouTube video about choosing CRNA schools. If you are a Confident Care Academy member, the Future CRNA folder, we have an entire lecture on CRNA school selection. This is the one people blow past the most because they are so
Worried about the interview.
They're so worried about the interview, but also most people just look at the schools in their area and don't really open their minds up to what is available to them across the country.
Big mistake.
If you have the ability to go anywhere, please, 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 please check out Anna's video. If you're a CCEA member, please go to the Future CRNA folder and check out the school selection video. Even if you are only able to look at local schools, it's going to help you make a better informed decision about the schools that are available to you. And it comes down to a lot more than just money and prereqs. So please do check those out. In our next video, we're going to be talking about what kind of ICU jobs are going to help you get into CRNA school. We're going to be talking about the myth of the level 1 trauma center. So please like, subscribe so you get notified about that. We're going to dive into all of the myth busting on all of the forums. You don't have to work in a level 1 trauma center.
See you next time.
See you next time.